the Israeli military says it has uncovered a major Hamas command center in the heart of Gaza City, inflicting what it described as a serious blow to the Islamic militant group. Today is Wednesday, December 21st, 2023, and this is the Dunkley Report. The Israeli military says it has uncovered a major Hamas command center in the heart of Gaza City, inflicting what it described as a serious blow to the Islamic militant group. The center's location comes as pressure grows on Israel to scale back its devastating military offensive in the coastal enclave. The military's announcement Wednesday came as Hamas's top leader arrived in Egypt for talks aimed at brokering a ceasefire that would put a temporary pause on over 2 months of heavy fighting and deliver a new deal for Hamas to swap Israeli hostages for Palestinians imprisoned by Israel. Former President Donald Trump's bid to win back the White House is now endangered by 2 sentences added to the U.S. Constitution 155 years ago. Section 3 of the 14th Amendment prohibits anyone who swore an oath to support the Constitution and then engaged in insurrection against it from holding office. For the first time in history, a court this week ruled that applies to the presidency. The Colorado Supreme Court ruled Trump is barred under the provision. But the court acknowledged that it's on untrodden legal ground, and the U.S. Supreme Court is likely to have the final word. The United States has freed a close ally of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro in exchange for the release of 10 Americans imprisoned in the South American country, and the return of a fugitive defense contractor. That contractor is known as Fat Leonard, and he's at the center of a massive Pentagon bribery scandal. The American detainees were back on U.S. soil late Wednesday. The deal represents the Biden administration's boldest move yet to improve relations with the major oil-producing nation and extract concessions from Maduro. The largest release of American prisoners in Venezuela's history comes weeks after the Biden administration agreed to suspend some sanctions. Some states that stockpiled millions of masks and other personal protective equipment during the coronavirus pandemic are now throwing the items away. An Associated Press investigation found that at least 15 states have tossed out some of the PPE items because they are expiring or have more than they need. Other states have sold extra materials at bargain prices or have tried to give away surplus masks, gowns, and gloves, but have had difficulty finding entities willing to take them. Public health experts say the glut of supplies shows that governments need to do a better job of planning for future emergencies. Boston Mayor Michelle Wu has apologized to 2 black men wrongly accused in the 1989 murder of a white woman that coarsened divisions in a city long split along racial lines and renewed anger and suspicion at police by the black community. She apologized at a news conference Wednesday to Alan Swanson and Willie Bennett for their wrongful arrests following the 1989 death of Carol Stewart, whose husband, Charles Stewart, had orchestrated her murder. Charles Stewart killed himself in 1990 after his brother confessed to helping hide the gun. The Boston Globe and an HBO documentary series has cast a new spotlight on the case. Parents are opting out of school vaccinations at the highest rate ever. Last school year, that amounted to 3% of U.S. children entering kindergarten. The highest rate was 12% in Idaho, where a change in state law a few years ago made it easier to opt out. All states require students to have certain vaccines to attend public school, and often private school and daycare. Exemptions are given for medical reasons, and sometimes for religious beliefs or personal reasons. Most states saw an increase in exemption rates last year. Repeatedly in recent years, the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops has stipulated that the threat of abortion remains its preeminent priority. In the face of recent election setbacks for abortion opponents, leading bishops and their lay allies are reassessing how to move forward with that stance. The latest rebuff came November 7th in Ohio, when voters approved a constitutional amendment that ensures access to abortion. It was the 7th consecutive state where voters decided to protect abortion access since the U.S. Supreme Court overturned the constitutional right to abortion in June 2022. The Ohio result was particularly stinging for abortion opponents, coming in a state where tough anti-abortion measures had been approved by the Republican-controlled legislature. An Oklahoma judge has exonerated a man who spent nearly 50 years in prison for murder, the longest-serving inmate to be declared innocent of the crime. The Oklahoma County judge on Tuesday announced that she found Glenn Simmons is innocent of killing a suburban Oklahoma City liquor store clerk in 1974. The 70-year-old Simmons told reporters after the ruling that he feels vindicated and simply plans to enjoy the remainder of his life. The ruling makes Simmons eligible for up to $175,000 in compensation from the state for wrongful conviction. A spokesperson for District Attorney Vicky Behenna declined immediate comment. Like Christmas trees, Santa and reindeer, the poinsettia has long been a ubiquitous symbol of the holidays in the U.S. and Europe. But nearly 200 years after the plant, with the bright crimson leaves, was introduced in the U.S., attention is again turning to the poinsettia's origins and the checkered history of its namesake. The name poinsettia comes from the amateur botanist and statesman Joel Roberts Poinsett, who happened upon the plant during his tenure as the first U.S. minister to a newly independent Mexico. But because of his difficult history as a slaveholder and Secretary of War who helped to oversee the forced removal of Native Americans, some fans of the plant would rather use its name among Nahuatl-speaking communities of Mexico. Cuetlaxochitl, Cuetla-sho-sheet. Authorities from Minnesota to Maine are adding Native American language translations to road signs and building facades. The push is part of an effort in some places to revitalize native languages and draw attention to the fact that Native communities live in these places or have lived there for centuries. Others are doing it to make Native American residents feel more welcome. A growing number of states have added dual language signs, including Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin. Next year, Cambridge, Massachusetts, will add a Native American language to some street signs. Today's news was reported by the Associated Press. This has been the World News for Wednesday, December 21st, 2023. Thanks again for joining us at The Dunkley Report.